Tonight on this Oregon Field Guide special.
This is the culmination of my 4-year obsession.
The first images ever captured of a hidden gorge, complete with a slot canyon, and a spectacular number of waterfalls.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful! The more we move downriver with
it is our largest, most complex expedition ever.
And they will hike out, leaving coal.
We have no idea what we're getting ourselves into.
This is a dangerous place. I mean, you can die in here very fast.
I've not been in a place like that in Oregon before.
Join us for an unprecedented journey of discovery right here in Oregon.
Welcome to Valhalla.
So here we are at more or less the trailhead for our adventure into Valhalla. We have some really good descriptions of what we'll encounter today, but probably not fully prepared, so we'll see what happens. It sounded like a cool spot, but exactly where Mike Malone was leading us was still a mystery. It's in a really remote area, so we brought along Jared Smith, a mountain guide with search and rescue skills. You'll be seeing lots of Jared later. But first, let's get oriented. We're starting here, beside the North Fork of the Breitenbush River in the Willamette National Forest. Our route takes us upstream about 3.5 miles. Easy, right? Well, after 2 days of crawling through tangles of fallen timber, thickets of vine maple and devil's club, and over the huge log jams that crisscross the freezing cold stream, I thought, where in the world are we going? In 1968, more than 100,000 acres around Mount Jefferson were declared wilderness. The designation protected the vast tracts of thick forest and all that it contained from easy exploration, including from the air. But in the summer of 2010, a wildfire in the area presented helicopter manager Mike Malone with a rare opportunity.
We had to actually fly under the smoke, which forced us to fly really low, just above treetop level.
Mike happened to be looking down at just the right moment.
And I see the stream, and then all of a sudden it just disappears into this dark crevice. I never will forget, I mentioned to the pilot, I go, wow, we just flew over a slot canyon.
But that wasn't all. At the top of the canyon, Mike saw a massive waterfall, maybe 100 feet tall. Anyone else might not have realized what a revelation it was. But Mike had worked for the Forest Service and been exploring this area since the 1970s. The idea that there could still be an unexplored gorge just 60 miles from Portland obsessed him.
Every source that I checked, I couldn't find any mention about any kind of narrow slot canyons like that in the Mount Jefferson Wilderness. And so my first thought was, I have to hike in there.
It took Mike and his friends Alan Dyke and Eric and Craig Edberg 4 years and 2 grueling expeditions to finally see the Slot Canyon with their own eyes.
We were all just kind of awestruck. I remember it was so quiet. There was no breeze, and here is this vast, deep slot canyon.
Mike called it Valhalla, after the glorious hall of slain Viking warriors.
The anticipation and the mystery as we were going into the Slot Canyon was just really overwhelming.
But the mysterious gorge was not ready to reveal all her secrets that day.
It's not too much further until you come to that first waterfall. The water right below that waterfall was just a raging torrent. And even with climbing gear, we realized we weren't going to get any further.
6 weeks later, here we are with Jared Smith. If anyone's going to get past those falls, it's Jared.
It was getting close to 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
And so I got to make this fast. Daylight's burning. I need to get above this waterfall, rappel back down, and get out of there before dark.
Mike was keen to go along, but before he could catch up, Jared vanished into a cave.
I could just see a faint glow of light off in the direction where Jared went. I didn't know what had happened to him.
Jared was fine. In fact, he'd found a way through the cave and all the way up to the top of the falls. And what he saw upstream floored him.
There's another waterfall. It's like, holy smokes. And my thought is, this canyon's going to be filled with these waterfalls. It was a pretty epic moment.
Mike was dying to see it for himself, but that would have to wait until next year.
I can't wait to go further next summer, see all the rest of the Slot Canyon, because I think it's going to just be incredible.
It was time to go.
Let's get out of here.
But for a few tantalizing seconds, we caught a glimpse of what lay beyond.
Spectacular. I've never seen nothing quite like it.
Especially if you
To understand the extent of the gorge, we needed to approach it from upstream and see where it began. The next summer, we planned an overland route that started from a Forest Service road above and led downslope to the 100-foot waterfall Mike had seen from the air. Our research revealed that the 100-foot waterfall had been noted on topographical maps, but no one had published an actual sighting. Mike hoped he would be the first.
And it's pretty easy. Canyons are great. You just go downhill.
You go downhill.
Joining us on this second scout trip was photographer John Waller. About a mile downslope, Mike found just what he was looking for.
Wow, I can see the top of the waterfall. Yeah, that looks like it's probably at least 80 feet tall.
Turns out that waterfall was only half the story.
I'm really tempted to try and get down there.
We can hear the water down below us. And I kind of look over at Jared and he looks at me and we're like, yeah, let's check this out. And we drop down this ridge and it's pretty steep, a lot of loose rock. Then it opens up into this place that we call Shangri-La. There's double waterfalls coming into it, and everything's just green and mossy, and there's just beautiful mist coming up in the sky. Everything that was expressed to us about how spectacular this place could be just came true.
You look at these two big waterfalls that are just unbelievable. And as I was standing there and I pan around and looked downstream, I could see that everything just disappeared and then changed everything for the most part.
Jared came back with some tough news for Mike.
This is a dangerous place. And there's no climbing these waterfalls. There's no possible way that you can go up this canyon. It's just not doable. Gravity's gonna pull you right into the waterfall.
Wow.
Wall to wall is water. The only way to get out of this area is to rappel out of it.
Taking Mike down through the gorge would be too risky.
This is an expert environment. Coming down is too dangerous to be just bringing anybody, which is okay. Not everybody does these kinds of things.
We didn't know how extreme it was going to be. The last time I rappelled was in 2007. I'm somewhat disappointed that I won't be able to make it all the way through the entire Slot Canyon, but I realized that it was probably a good idea that I didn't attempt it.
Instead, Jared, John, and a specialized crew would travel down the gorge, while another film crew would follow Mike upstream. The teams would meet in the Slot Canyon, and Mike would finally get to see what was beyond that first waterfall. The plan would take some serious logistics. Aerial recon revealed towering cliffs and waterfalls no one knew were there. Topographical maps showed an elevation drop of 600 feet. Documenting just what was inside that half-mile gorge would be huge, and so would the risks. And there's the surprise waterfall, the 40-footer.
Oh, wow.
We didn't know about this before.
Phenomenal.
I guess what's the point of us waiting and not coming out with it?
Joining the team was Jared's search and rescue partner, Mike Williams.
As a emergency medical technician, I knew that the terrain we were in would be very difficult to access for a rescue crew. Are we going to have radio communications?
We hope so.
Communications is a really important thing when it comes to emergency situations. I think it's important.
It is, except we've got a lot of geology there that could prevent communications.
I just realized that nobody can get hurt down here because if we do, it's going to be a long time to get out of here.
At that point, the crews split. Canyon crew goes down into the canyon, and Todd and I will be going to the Valhalla trailhead.
I don't think I'd ever encountered a project that had this number of logistical and technical challenges. It set us up to be ready to expect anything.
The expedition started with clear, hot weather, a good sign. The canyon crew, as they came to be known, would spend 3 days inside the canyon, totally unsupported from the outside. The team included expert climb rigger Brian French and photographer Ben Canales.
Cameras?
They would scramble down to Shangri-La the easy way, but not Jared. He wanted to see that 100-foot waterfall close up.
I wanted to rappel off of it instantly. And today I get to. Growing up, Whitaker and Hillary and all these mountaineer folks that would go do Everest or these big trips, those were like my childhood heroes. So for me to be a part of something where no man's been before is just really special for me. The rappel was loose rock on the top, so it was super dangerous, especially for the people below. Look! Once you get to the top of the waterfall, you can actually see the huge chunks of water that are coming off and the volume of water that's there. Woo! Oh my gosh, it's beautiful!
Jared enjoys that stuff so much. I knew he was just in his element going off that.
It was awesome seeing Jared on those falls, like getting a real perspective, the scale of that thing. I mean, those falls are big, and it's a lot of water flowing over that thing. And so that was one of the moments where I was like, man, better him than me.
The fall line was right inside of the waterfall. A few times I had to hold my head down just because my face was getting pounded by thousands of pounds of water.
He came down close to the bottom, and at that point, I saw him get underneath the water and disappear.
Well, there's always a little bit of fear in the back because there's no option. You can't just say cut, stop, or I want to go home or something like that. There's that moment of being thankful for everything that you've had in your life. And so you just reflect on that and then move through it.
And that's just what Jared did.
Woo! Yeah, that was wild, Mike. That was probably one of the coolest rappels I've done.
Yeah, are you going to do it again?
That?
Yeah.
Hell no. That was intense, dude.
It's a lot of water.
In fact, the trip down through the rest of the gorge was just beginning. And it started with 2 significant waterfalls.
Those 2 waterfalls are inside of almost a full cave system. It's not very wide on top of these waterfalls, so it's super cold, super wet. If you don't have a wetsuit on, you're gonna die of hypothermia. It's that cold.
The good news was that the surprise 40-foot waterfall was right there. The bad news was
It's just these perfectly smooth walls kind of pulling up and away on either side. a dramatic 40-foot drop straight down, and the water's just plunging in this beautiful line straight down the middle. And there's nothing to rig to.
The only reliable anchor was back upstream. That meant one long rope had to reach all the way down to the bottom. But even that didn't solve all the problems.
The angle that the rope was naturally wanting to lay put us right into the water.
It scares me, honestly, as I'm looking at and I'm thinking about rappelling down to this 40-foot falls in the middle of this freezing water with all my stuff. I get scared.
The rappel line would have to be redirected.
There was not a lot of options in there as far as anchors go for redirection.
What's still holding us over there, though?
There's always that question, like, I wonder if they're going to figure this out. Like, I hope so.
One small boulder looked pretty solid.
I like that idea, man.
We redirected the rope over to the small boulder and then allowed it to go next to the waterfall at that point.
Yeah! Woo!
When you first go over the edge of the rappel, you're thinking about if that rock shifts, all that slack's going to give and that rock's going to come forward and it can come right over the waterfall on top of you. But the rock didn't give.
So we all get down below the waterfalls, and then the last step is to pull the rope.
Once that rope is pulled, turning around would not be an option.
I remember standing down there and getting ready to pull that rope and looking around and thinking, this is it. We're going forward and not back.
It's the unknown, which is the fun part of expedition work like this, is if we make it, this is something big.
As we got later in the day and the sun was setting, then the temp really started dropping. It becomes a bit disconcerting because, like, soaking wet, there is no camp. You know, we still got to decide where we're sleeping. And we got lucky, like about 150 yards, there was a little bench. And, like, it was a small bench. You know, in the higher water table, I don't know that would be dry.
There's nothing that even begins to look like a camp spot. So that's fully it. The water, of course, we're right next to it, and it's thunderous.
And falling asleep to that sound, like, it isn't you hear that sound, it's like you feel that sound or you're in that sound.
We wake up in the morning, and this is the day that has the most unknowns.
Right here, see this ridge?
Wait, that right there?
That's that right there.
That's this right here.
Yep. Yeah.
Because we're truly moving into a section that, even from the aerials, we haven't been able to tell what's there. So we have no idea what we're getting ourselves into.
Here's the very end of where we need to get to. That's the cave waterfall there.
Okay.
Right.
So we still got to go through this.
Yeah.
We want to get to the Slot Canyon, and we have a pretty good idea distance-wise how far that is, but we have no idea technically how long it's going to take us to get there. Then we start heading downstream, and sure enough, we don't go more than a single corner, and there's another 30-foot waterfall.
That's the stuff we live for right there, dude. That was nice, man. It makes you feel alive. Beautiful. I mean, where else can you find this?
Welcome to Valhalla.
Welcome to Valhalla. Thank you, Mike Malone. You're the man.
A few miles downstream, the second camera crew was just meeting up with the man and his son Sean for the hike to the Slot Canyon.
My son has never been there before. He's been hearing about it a lot for the last 5 years.
You know, he talks about it as this amazing, spectacular place. And believe me, it's all he's been talking about. So I guess I'm just ready to see how it really is.
With luck, the next day both crews would meet up in the Slot Canyon. But before that could happen, The canyon crew had to get through that gorge.
Being in Valhalla, it feels like you've gone into the throat of something through the stomach and you're in it. You know, for myself, as what I would say much more of a normal person, not a hardcore adventurer, there's kind of just a low-level panic at the back of the mind. It's like, this is not normal. What's going to happen here? What's going to happen there?
Woo! Yeah! It's awesome!
And so there's kind of always a little fight to keep that quelled down. And then there's just this thrilling excitement at the rugged beauty of it. All the fears just disappeared, and it was like, this is awesome. You know, the worry was gone, and it was just pure adventure.
As we're moving down through, all of a sudden, it just opens up into this remarkable, beautiful amphitheater. Just like huge, towering walls on either side of you. There's just big, mossy pour-overs, water spilling and trickling in all these places, and there's ferns and moss and green, and it's just a strikingly beautiful place. We named that Cathedral Garden.
Oh my God. Walking into that space was jaw-dropping. I've not been in a place like that in Oregon before. And it just had that open air, mystical, like giant feeling, and it kind of took on a spiritual moment in there. Like no one wanted to talk loud in the beginning, you know, like we were just so impressed by it.
All they had to do now was get through one more night.
The walls are so steep over the top of us, and there is rockfall in this area. And again, there's no other place to camp.
And it's like we're in this precarious situation is the safest alternative, and whatever happens, it's going to happen. It makes me feel wonderfully small in this place. It's like this comforting re-prioritization of where we fit in nature and the food chain of things.
Good morning from what is probably the coolest, craziest camp spot ever camped in.
You know, Ben, the thing about being in Cathedral Gardens is that slugs like it here too. They're on everything.
Yeah, the slugs were everywhere.
Is that going to go in your oatmeal?
It's gonna go in somebody's oatmeal.
We were definitely one with nature in that camp spot.
As Jared led the team downstream, something started to look familiar. It was the cave waterfall Jared had scaled the year before.
I knew that we'd made it to a certain significant point and that a lot of the adventure was over, but it was a good feeling to know that we'd made it through, though, without injuries.
This ninth big waterfall would be the last of the expedition.
There are very few places on this earth that nobody has been to before, and thinking that I have maybe experienced that is pretty exciting.
There was just one last thing on everyone's mind.
We're walking down through the canyon. We're like, I hope we run into the group that's coming up the canyon. And like clockwork, right at the right time, at the right place, we converged just as we had planned.
Wow. There's Valhalla.
You're welcome, man.
So happy to be here.
Thanks,
Finally,
Mike.
it's been a long time
Appreciate
coming.
it.
It's like a painting.
It was quite a moment.
I was just glad everyone was in one piece.
It's good to be here. What an epic adventure.
We had seen giant waterfalls. We had gone through twisty, curvy, almost cavern-like pools and cascades, and then come across the giant Cathedral Gardens. And then this thing still wasn't done yet, and now here we are at this tight slot canyon, and everything are almost like violent greens. There's just bright greens and deep greens and mid greens. It's just overwhelming green everywhere.
You know, hearing about it for so long doesn't prepare you for what it's actually like. The rock formations, the colors, the foliage that's mixed in with the rock, the water, everything about it is just beautiful.
This is probably, only 12 feet wide right here.
It's like a surreal landscape that you didn't think existed.
Right in the middle of it was the cave waterfall that had stopped Mike twice before, the place he had named Jared Falls. Getting on top of that meant a trip through the cave. Was I going along?
No. You ready?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Come on, let's do it. All right, guys, it's gonna get cold in here. Watch your head.
Oh yeah, the water is cold. It takes your breath away.
Piece of cake. Piece of cake, my friend.
Once on top, Mike can finally see deep into the slot canyon.
It's a surreal sight, and the whole thing is tilted, literally at about a 30-degree angle.
And the walls just get even taller. The whole cliffside is covered with moss and ferns. It's just breathtaking.
Wow, it's awesome.
It's just a very mysterious place. So I was really glad that Sean finally got to see it and to explore it with me.
Nice, guys. Look at that.
Wow.
And I just feel lucky to have a dad that got me out to this and lots of other similar things, and lucky to be part of a discovery.
To realize in Oregon, there are still places that are undiscovered.
It's overwhelming that such a beautiful place exists that people haven't seen before, and really right in our own backyard.
Getting inspiration for your next adventure. It's kind of why you're here, right? Well, you can support more of what we do on Oregon Field Guide and everything else you see on OPB by going to opb.org/video and becoming a sustaining member.